After 4 years together, my fiancé looked me right in the eye and said, "You're not good enough to be my wife. I can do better." Then, just like that, he turned and walked away like I was nothing. And you know what I did? I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievable, I didn't know what else to do. Funny thing is, now he's alone, and the girl he ran off with? She's married to someone else. And him? He's the one lighting up my phone like it's the 4th of July, begging me to come back. I spent a little over 4 years with Derek. At the start, it was everything I thought love was supposed to feel like. Those first couple of years? Man, they were something special. We moved in together about a year and a half into dating. My folks weren't thrilled about it, old school values and all, but I figured, come on, it's modern times. Besides, it felt right. It felt easy. We liked all the same stuff, same shows, same food, even down to silly little things like which brand of soap smelled better. We'd spend whole weekends binge-watching Netflix, hunting for the best burgers in town, or just talking late into the night about anything and everything. Derek had a sweet side too. Every now and then, he'd leave a coffee on my nightstand so it was waiting for me when I woke up. Or he'd send me some random TikTok that reminded him of me. It wasn't the kind of love that knocks you off your feet every day, it was the quiet kind that makes you feel safe. It made me think, yeah, I could do forever with this guy. So when he proposed on our 3rd anniversary, I said yes without a second thought. Nothing fancy, just us, down by the lake where we had our first date. The ring wasn't huge, but I didn't care. It was perfect because it was us. I did all the typical stuff, posted a ring pic, cried on the phone to my mom, dove into wedding planning with my whole heart. We circled next summer on the calendar. But looking back, 6 months into the engagement, something started to shift. It wasn't obvious right away. It crept in, slow and sneaky. Little comments here and there about how I looked. Things that almost sounded like compliments if you weren't really listening. Like, that dress would look even better if you hit the gym more, or you'd be prettier with a classier hairstyle. I laughed it off at first. Thought maybe he was trying to help in his own way. But then it wasn't just my looks. He started picking apart who I was. He'd correct me in front of people if I said something he thought wasn't smart enough. He started making these passive little jabs about my job, my dreams, or lack of, according to him. Then came the digs at my family, saying they were too simple and didn't fit into the kind of life he saw for himself. I wish I could say I stood my ground. But I didn't. Instead, I started chipping away at myself. I changed my hair. Bought clothes I thought made me look more polished. Took extra shifts, signed up for classes online, trying to be this better version he kept hinting I should be. It's crazy now, thinking about how far I bent over backward. When you're deep in it, though, when you love someone, you don't always realize you're losing pieces of yourself until you don't recognize the person staring back at you. The real breaking point came about 3 months before the wedding. We were sitting there, talking about wedding details, and somehow the conversation shifted to my dress, which he hadn't even seen because I wanted to keep it traditional. He told me his mom was worried I'd pick something too boring. Said it like she was doing me a favor, giving me a heads up. When I asked him what that was supposed to mean, he finally let it all out. He said he'd been settling for me. Said he was realizing I wasn't cut out to be his wife. Said his family didn't think I had what it took to handle their world. And then he looked me right in the eye and said the words I'll never forget. "You're not worthy of being my wife. I think I can do better." I just sat there, completely numb. For years, and that's what I was worth to him? You'd think after hearing something like that, I'd fall apart. But I didn't. I laughed. Not because I thought it was funny, but because it was so damn pathetic, there was nothing else left to do. Here I was, killing myself trying to fit into his world, and he was acting like I was the one who wasn't enough. Truth was, he never deserved me to begin with. The laugh caught him off guard, too. You could see it on his face, he wasn't expecting that. He got mad, demanded to know what was so funny. I just shook my head and told him he was right, we shouldn't get married. But not for the reason he thought. I told him straight up, I deserved someone who lifted me up, not someone who made me feel like I was never good enough. I grabbed my purse, walked out that door, and went straight to my best friend Tessa's place without even looking back. The tears didn't come until later that night, curled up on Tessa's couch. Because no matter how strong you are, 4 years is a long time to invest in someone. And even when you know you're doing the right thing, it still hurts like hell. But underneath all that heartbreak, there was something else, too, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. Like I had finally dropped a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. Derek didn't take it well. He started texting, calling, blowing up my phone like crazy. At first, he was angry, calling me dramatic, saying I was throwing away something good over nothing. Then he switched tactics, apologies, excuses, promises to change. When that didn't work, he tried to put me down again, telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life and that I'd come crawling back. Spoiler alert, I didn't. I crashed at Tessa's for a few weeks, just trying to clear my head and figure out my next move. And let me tell you, canceling a wedding is no joke. If no one's warned you yet, do yourself a favor, get wedding insurance. Thankfully, my friends were absolute lifesavers. They helped me cancel everything, return gifts, and break the news to everyone. My parents stood by me too, even though I could see my mom stressing about what people would say back in our small town. And yeah, the rumor mill was brutal. People talk. But honestly, that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was going back to that apartment and packing up my life. I had planned it so he'd be at work while I packed up my stuff, but of course, just my luck, he came home right in the middle of it. 1 minute he was pleading with me to stay, trying to make me second-guess myself. The next, he flipped a switch, cold as ice, telling me I was throwing my life away. At one point, he actually sneered, "Good luck finding anyone else at your age." Like, seriously? As if turning 29 somehow made me ancient. Give me a break. The part that stung the most wasn't the insult, though. It was realizing he wasn't upset because he loved me or because he was heartbroken. He was mad about how it looked to everyone else. He kept ranting about how embarrassed he was, how his family had already bragged to everyone about the wedding, and now he had to explain why it wasn't happening. Not once, not one single time, did he say he loved me. Not once did he say he would miss me. That was the moment everything clicked. Leaving him was absolutely the right call. I found a little apartment across town, small, nothing fancy, but it was all mine. I threw myself into making it feel like home. For the first time in my life, I was living completely on my own, and honestly, it was kind of amazing. I decorated however I wanted, filled the place with colors and plants he would have rolled his eyes at. I watched whatever cheesy shows I felt like without getting snarky commentary. I could just exist, freely, without feeling like I had to perform or impress anybody. Not gonna lie, though, the first month was rough. There were mornings I'd wake up instinctively reaching for him, before I remembered he wasn't there. Or I'd see something funny online and start to text him, only to stop myself. It hurt. It really did. But slowly, I started piecing myself back together. I went back to hobbies I'd dropped because he used to mock them, saying they were childish. I started meeting up with old friends I had drifted away from, the ones he never really clicked with, so I stopped trying to keep around. Little by little, I was finding my way back to me. Then, about 6 weeks after the breakup, word got around, thanks to some mutual friends, that Derek was telling people I'd had a mental breakdown. That's why, according to him, I called off the wedding. Classic Derek. Always spinning things so he could come out looking squeaky clean. For a second, I thought about setting the record straight. Posting something, telling my side. But honestly, I realized it didn't matter. The people who mattered already knew the truth. And something unexpected happened, people started reaching out. Friends I hadn't heard from in ages messaged me, just to check in, offer support, tell me they had always been worried about the way he treated me but hadn't known how to bring it up. Even one of his own cousins messaged me, telling me she was proud of me for getting out. That kind of kindness meant everything, especially on the days when the doubt tried to creep in. Meanwhile, Derek's texts got fewer but weirder. He wasn't apologizing or taking any responsibility. Instead, he sent these random little messages, like, your favorite movie's playing at the theater, or finally tried that restaurant we always talked about. Breadcrumbs. Little traps designed to reel me back into nostalgia. I didn't take the bait. Not once. 3 months after that horrible night, I surprised myself by feeling okay. Actually, better than okay. My apartment finally felt like home. Work was going great, turns out I actually have plenty of ambition when I'm not constantly being torn down. I even started dipping my toes back into the dating pool. Nothing serious, just casual coffee dates, reminding myself that good guys do still exist. Sure, every once in a while I'd miss what we had. You don't just erase 4 years like they're nothing. There were real moments, good memories buried under the mess. But every time I pictured his face saying, "You're not worthy," it slammed that door shut all over again. So there I was, 29 years old, single, starting fresh, and honestly, I was kind of excited about it. I didn't have it all figured out, not by a long shot. But for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. About a month after that, I heard through the grapevine that Derek had already started seeing someone new. Her name was Sloane. From what I heard, she was everything he thought he wanted, came from a rich family, had a high-powered job downtown, the whole 9 yards. Apparently, she commuted over an hour to work every day and still somehow showed up looking like she just stepped off a Vogue cover. Tessa bumped into them once and told me Sloane looked, well, perfect. And yeah, hearing that stung more than I wanted it to. Even though I knew deep down Derek wasn't right for me, there's something about watching someone move on so fast that makes you feel like you never really mattered at all. I spiraled a little. Spent a weekend on my couch, scrolling through old photos, wondering if maybe I should have tried harder, been better, fit the mold he kept trying to shove me into. But eventually, I snapped out of it. Because the truth is, I didn't want to be someone else just to make a man stay. Not long after, I met Evan. It wasn't planned. I wasn't looking for anything serious. We met through some mutual friends, just grabbed a drink, and right away, it felt easy. No pressure. No cheesy pickup lines. Just two people talking like they'd known each other for years. Evan asked if I wanted to grab coffee the next day before he headed home, and I figured, what the heck? That coffee turned into lunch, then a walk, then dinner. Before I knew it, we'd spent the whole day together, and it felt natural, effortless. He listened when I talked, really listened. He spoke about his family with warmth. He never once made me feel like I had to prove anything to him or apologize for who I was. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not judged. Not coached or improved. We started seeing each other, not exactly long distance, since he lived about 40 minutes away, but far enough that it took a little effort, which, honestly, made it even sweeter. Some weekends he'd drive down to my place. Other weekends, I'd pack a bag and head to his. Evan and I definitely had our share of those early relationship growing pains. There was the night we were having one of those deep, meaningful conversations, and out of nowhere, his Roomba got stuck under the couch and let out this horrible, dying animal screech. Third date, mind you. Real romantic. Or the time I tried to impress him with a homemade dinner and somehow managed to set off his smoke alarm not once, not twice, but 3 different times in the same night. But instead of getting awkward or annoyed, we just laughed. Those little disasters turned into inside jokes, the kind of stories you pull out later and laugh about like they're treasured memories. About 3 months into dating Evan, I had a moment I'd been dreading since my whole world imploded. I ran into Derek and Sloane. Of all places? Target. I had built it up in my mind for so long, thinking I'd feel jealousy, maybe shame, Maybe even that tight, suffocating awkwardness you get when you see someone you once thought was your forever with someone new. But when it actually happened, I felt nothing. No sting. No sadness. Not even discomfort. Just a calm, clear sense that that part of my life was over, sealed, and done. We exchanged a quick, polite hello. Derek looked like he'd seen a ghost. He wasn't expecting me to be so collected. Sloane smiled, but it was that stiff kind of smile that screams, "I want to get out of here." The whole thing lasted maybe half a minute, but to me, it felt like a massive personal win. A few days later, Derek texted me out of the blue. "It was good to see you. You look great. Would love to catch up sometime, as friends." I showed Evan the message, and he just raised an eyebrow and asked, "What do you want to do?" No jealousy, no pressure. Just giving me the space to make my own call. And honestly, I didn't even have to think about it. Some doors, once they're closed, are better off staying that way. I didn't reply. Things with Evan kept moving along, slow and steady, just the way it should be. No rushing. No dragging our feet either. 6 months in, he floated the idea, real casual, no big production, about me moving in. I was already spending most weekends at his place anyway, and he had this old, charming house he was fixing up room by room. Leaving my apartment was harder than I thought it would be. That little place had been my sanctuary after Derek. It was the first space that had ever truly been mine. But deep down, I knew it was time. Moving in meant adjusting, of course. His house was already packed, so fitting all my stuff in was like playing Tetris in real life. We learned fast we had different quirks too. He's always hot, I'm basically a human heating pad. He leaves his shoes wherever he takes them off, I never remember to close cabinet doors. But instead of those differences becoming fights, they just became part of the rhythm of living together. No judgment. No resentment. Just balance. Meanwhile, through Tessa, who's basically my unofficial town news reporter, I heard that Derek and Sloane were getting serious. Apparently, he'd already introduced her to his parents, which felt wild considering it took him almost 2 years to do that with me. And honestly, I didn't feel bitter. If anything, I kind of felt sorry for her. A little voice in the back of my head wondered if she was already starting to hear those same little cutting comments, the ones that took me way too long to recognize for what they were. About a month after moving in with Evan, the texts from Derek started up again. Nothing crazy, just persistent. "Hey, how've you been? Heard you moved. Hope you're doing okay. Remember that band we used to love? They're playing in town again." I didn't answer most of them. And the few times I did, I kept it short, polite, and as empty as humanly possible. I didn't tell Evan about every single message, they honestly felt so irrelevant, but I never hid them either. Then one night, while I was making dinner, my phone buzzed. Derek's name on the screen. My stomach sank instantly. Old instincts, I guess. I showed the caller ID to Evan, feeling that old wave of anxiety creeping up. He looked at it, shrugged, and said, "You can answer if you want." "Your call." I didn't answer. But Derek left a voicemail anyway. He said he wanted to meet up. Said he had some things he needed to say. I thought about it. Talked it over with Evan. In the end, I texted Derek back, short and simple. Told him I was happy, in a relationship, and didn't think meeting up was a good idea. He replied almost immediately. "I understand. I just wanted to apologize. I said a lot of things I didn't mean. It was something, I guess. Not enough to change anything. But enough to finally put a lid on that chapter for good." I thanked him for the apology and left it at that. Life kept rolling forward. Evan and I built this comfortable little world together. Weekend trips, new restaurants, lazy movie marathons, board game nights with friends. We even started tossing around ideas about the future. Nothing high pressure. Just daydreaming about where life might take us. Then, 6 months after I moved in, Evan proposed. It wasn't some grand Instagram event with drones and flash mobs. We were having a picnic by a quiet little lake, thankfully, not the same one where Derek had proposed, and out of nowhere, he looked at me and said he couldn't imagine a life without me in it. The ring was a vintage sapphire from his grandmother. Classic. Timeless. Stunning. I cried. I laughed. And I said yes without even a second of doubt. Later that night, sitting on our porch sipping champagne, my phone buzzed. It was Derek. The message read, "Heard about your engagement. Didn't realize things were that serious. Hope you're not rushing into something you'll regret." I showed it to Evan. He gave this small, knowing smile and said, "Some people never change." We decided right then and there that the best answer was no answer at all. I blocked Derek that night. No drama. No announcement. Just a quiet, final end to that story. The next morning, we posted our engagement online, because let's be real, in today's world, it's not official until it's social media official. Faced with tears of joy. The outpouring of love and support from friends and family was incredible. Sweet messages, congratulations, even a few teary phone calls from people who had been rooting for me from the sidelines all along. The comment that cracked me up the most? Tessa, of course. She raised her glass and said, "From not good enough to the best thing that ever happened to the best guy I know, and all in under a year. That's gotta be some kind of world record." Honestly, I should have been mortified that she dragged up my old breakup so publicly, but I wasn't. It felt like the perfect mic drop summary of how far I'd come. Evan and I picked a wedding date 6 months out. Nothing huge or fussy, just something simple, full of heart, and totally us. Small guest list. People who mattered. People who knew the road it took to get here. The wedding's next month, and weirdly enough, I'm not scared. No second guessing. No last-minute panic. Just this calm feeling in my gut that says, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And the kicker? Thanks to good old small-town gossip, because you know privacy isn't a thing around here, word got around that Sloane dumped Derek. Apparently, she reconnected with some old flame and realized she'd been settling. Tell me the universe doesn't have a wicked sense of humor. So that's the full circle moment. Once told I wasn't worthy, now building a life with someone who sees my worth in every little thing I do. Life's funny like that. Sometimes you gotta walk through a whole storm just to find clear skies on the other side. Once Evan and I got engaged, wedding planning officially kicked off. And wow, what a difference. When I was planning a wedding with Derek, everything was about appearances. Making his parents happy. Picking the right photographer. Choosing napkin colors like our marriage depended on it. This time? Every choice was about what made us smile. What felt like home. Nobody cared about impressing a room full of strangers. There was no, "Does your dress look expensive enough?" garbage either. I still can't believe how much time I wasted thinking I had to earn someone's love by being better. Anyway, 2 months before the big day, Tessa dropped a bomb on me over brunch. Turns out Sloane, the golden girl Derek supposedly upgraded to? Yeah, she'd been sneaking around with Tessa's brother, Nolan. They met commuting to the city, started grabbing coffees together, and next thing you know, sparks. She broke up with Derek out of nowhere, blindsided him, and rumor had it, he fell apart. And listen, I'm not proud of this, but when Tessa told me, I didn't feel bad. Not even a little bit. Some lessons just have to hurt before they stick. As our wedding day crept closer, guess who couldn't stay away? Yup. Derek. Even though I had him blocked on my phone, he found me on Instagram. At first, it was harmless. Congrats on the engagement. Hope wedding planning is going well. I kept it neutral. Short replies, if I replied at all. But then the tone shifted. I've been thinking a lot about us. About everything I screwed up. I showed Evan every message. He never once made me feel like I had to hide anything. He just gave me this look like, some people just don't know when to quit. The week of the wedding, it got worse. Can we talk? Just once. For closure. Are you sure you're making the right choice? Imagine that. The same guy who told me I wasn't good enough was now questioning whether I knew what I was doing. I stopped answering altogether. And then our wedding day finally came. And man, it was perfect. Not the kind of perfect you put on Pinterest. The real kind. The messy, wonderful, totally human kind. It rained that morning, which my grandma swears is good luck. My veil got tangled in a rose bush 5 minutes before pictures. Evan's nephew interrupted our vows mid-sentence because he had to pee. And none of it mattered. If anything, it made the day feel even more like us. The love in that room was so thick you could have bottled it. And Eric? He tried, of course. Called me 3 times while I was getting ready. Thank God Tessa had my phone all day. Every time his name popped up, she just calmly hit decline and went right back to fixing my hair or making me laugh. Later, she told me about it, and we both nearly cried laughing. Like, imagine thinking your ex will pick up on her wedding day. The delusion is chef's kiss. After the wedding, Evan and I took off for a quiet beach town, a few hours away. We rented a tiny Airbnb with a balcony overlooking the ocean. Spent days wandering sleepy little streets, eating seafood till we could barely move, and just breathing. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. Then we got home. 17 missed calls. All from Derek. And a flood of messages. I need to talk to you. Please don't ignore me. I made the biggest mistake of my life letting you go. I showed Evan. He didn't get angry. He just got this thoughtful look and said, "Do you want me to handle it?" Honestly? I did. We didn't have to wait long. While we were still unpacking, my phone buzzed again, Derek's name flashing on the screen. Evan picked it up without hesitation, calm as anything. "Hello, this is Ruby's phone." Silence. Then Derek's voice, all awkward, is Ruby there?" Evan didn't miss a beat. "She's a little busy unpacking from our honeymoon. This is her husband. Can I pass along a message?" There was a long, glorious pause on the other end. Finally, Derek muttered something about wanting to say congratulations. Evan thanked him, polite but firm, and told him we appreciated the good wishes, but I had moved on and would prefer no further contact. Zero drama. Zero anger. Just clear, solid boundaries, the kind I never had before. And in that moment, watching Evan handle it all so effortlessly, I felt this giant wave of peace wash over me. This is what real love looks like. This is what safety feels like. Derek never called again. He sent one final message. "I finally understand. I'm sorry for everything. You deserve to be happy." And that was the end of it. For real this time. You know what it felt like? Like finally snapping shut a book I should have finished a long time ago. Looking back at everything that's happened over the past year and a half, it blows my mind how broken I was the night Derek looked me in the eye and said I wasn't good enough to be his wife. At the time, it felt like the world was falling apart. But standing here now, I realize it wasn't the end at all. It was the beginning of something better. These days, Evan and I have started house hunting, looking for a place that's just ours. No leftover memories from old lives. No ghosts hiding in the corners. It feels like a fresh chapter, one we're writing from scratch. So that's where life has landed me, 30 years old, happily married, building a future with someone who sees me, loves me, and values every messy, beautiful part of who I am. Evan and I have been married for 15 months now. About 4 months ago, after what felt like forever scrolling through listings, we finally found our first house. It's a quirky old 90s ranch, 3 bedrooms, bold wallpaper choices that hurt your eyes a little, a kitchen that's clinging hard to its early 2000s glory days, and a backyard just big enough for the dog we keep debating about. Golden Retriever versus Rescue Mutt, the war continues. Homeownership has been an adventure. The dishwasher flooded the kitchen the day after we moved in. 2 weeks later, we found a whole squirrel family squatting in the attic. And don't even get me started on the bathroom sink that sounds like a haunted swamp every night at 2 a.m. But even with all the chaos, there's something kind of amazing about building a life together from the ground up. Evan's the muscle. I'm the planner. Together? We make a damn good team. After we got mostly settled, we decided to throw a housewarming party. Just something chill, 20 or so close friends and family, a few snack tables, a playlist, and a cooler full of drinks. I went full Pinterest hostess mode anyway, spent days scrubbing floors, arranging cheese boards like it was an Olympic sport, and trying to make the house look a little less construction zone. Everything was going great. Tessa brought her famous buffalo chicken dip. Evan's brothers helped set up the new patio furniture. People were laughing, mingling, flowing in and out of the kitchen and backyard. I was mid-ice bucket refill when Tessa walked in looking weird. She pulled me aside and said, "You're not gonna believe who just showed up." And before she even said it, I knew. Derek. Yep. That Derek. My ex. The one who once told me I wasn't worth marrying. Standing in my driveway. Holding a bottle of wine. Apparently, he just showed up out of nowhere, no invite, no warning, looking rough around the edges. Tessa intercepted him outside, trying to figure out what to do without making a scene. At first, I felt a flash of anger. This was our day. Our home. The nerve. But after that first wave, something surprising settled in. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. That tight little knot he used to tie up in my stomach? Gone. So I said, "Let him in." It felt easier than making a scene. I found Evan, who was busy showing his dad the new garage setup, and filled him in. He didn't puff up. Didn't get mad. He just looked at me and asked, "What do you want to do?" God, I love this man. We decided we'd go out there together. Face him. Keep it calm, keep it polite, but make it clear. When we got outside, Derek was hovering awkwardly near the snack table, looking like he regretted every decision that led him there. He handed me the bottle of wine. And irony of all ironies, it was the same cheap wine he used to mock me for buying because it wasn't refined enough. The conversation at first was all surface-level nonsense. He complimented the house. Asked about the neighborhood. Mumbled something about the weather. All while sneaking weird, awkward glances at Evan. I kept it light. Introduced him to people as an old friend. It was just easier than saying, "Oh hey, this is the guy who made me doubt my worth for 4 straight years." Then one of Evan's cousins, completely oblivious, commented how perfect Evan and I seemed together. And that's when Derek cracked. He mumbled something under his breath that I didn't quite catch. It sounded like she wouldn't be here without me. I asked him to repeat it. And man, he did not hold back. He launched into this sad, slurred speech about how he prepared me for Evan. How his tough love pushed me to grow. How, really, I should thank him for everything that happened because it made me who I am today. I stood there, speechless. Mouth open, not even sure how to respond. And then Evan, cool as ever, stepped in. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't get in Derek's face. He just said, steady and sure, "I'm thankful every day she's in my life. But let's be clear, her strength has nothing to do with being torn down by someone who didn't know how to love her properly." Then he added, calm as can be, "This isn't the time or place for this conversation. We're here to celebrate a new beginning. Hope you understand." You'd think that would have sent Derek packing. But nope. He looked at me, half smirking, and said, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't let you go?" Let me go. Standing there, hearing him talk like he was some kind of hero? Like he hadn't sat across from me once and crushed me with the words, "You're not worthy?" It was almost laughable. For a split second, I felt that old sting, like a paper cut you forgot about until someone bumps it. but it faded faster than it ever would have back then. I looked him square in the eye and said, steady and calm. I don't waste my time thinking about what might have been. I'm too busy being thankful for what is. I saw the flicker of confusion cross his face, but I wasn't finished. Breaking up was the best thing that ever happened to both of us. And by the way, worthiness isn't something someone else gets to decide. It's something you figure out for yourself. He didn't know what to do with that. His face twisted through about 6 different emotions: confusion, regret, anger, before he settled into this blank stare like he couldn't believe I wasn't folding. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, it got through. But then he looked around, at the house, the laughter, the life buzzing around him that had nothing to do with him anymore, and you could see the bitterness creep back in. He shook his head and muttered, "You've changed." Like it was an insult. "You didn't used to be this cold," he added, under his breath. Before I could even get a word out, Tessa, pure magic that she is, stepped in with the save of the century. She lit up like a Christmas tree and said, way too brightly, "Oh hey. Ran into Sloane and Nolan at the farmer's market last weekend." She whipped out her phone and pulled up a photo, Sloane, glowing and happy, Nolan grinning with his hand on her very pregnant belly. "Yep," Tessa said, pretending not to notice Derek standing there like a wet sock. "They're expecting this summer. Just bought a house across town, too. So sweet, right?" I caught a glimpse of Derek's face just in time to see the wheels spin and stall in his head. You could almost hear the gears grinding while he tried to process that Sloane had not only moved on, but moved way on. And then Tessa, casually savage, dropped one last line. "Sloane told me she thinks of her time with you as, what was it? Oh right, a learning experience." You could practically feel the air leave the guy. He drained his drink in one gulp, mumbled something about having to be somewhere, and started making his way toward the door like he couldn't disappear fast enough. Evan, being the good guy he is, offered to walk him out. Tessa and I just exchanged a look and tried not to bust out laughing until they were out of earshot. A few minutes later, Evan came back inside, shaking his head, a grin playing on his lips. "Apparently," he said, "Derek asked me if you've always been this stubborn." I snorted. "What did you say?" Evan shrugged, smiling easy. "Told him I prefer the word self-assured." Then I suggested he grab an Uber before he embarrassed himself any worse. And that was that. The party rolled on. There were some raised eyebrows, sure, it's a small town, word gets around faster than wildfire, but the good energy came right back. Later that night, when the house finally quieted down and we collapsed onto the couch, I saw a new message pop up on my phone. From Derek. "Sorry about earlier. Didn't mean to cause a scene. I hope you're happy. No dramatics. No big confessions. Just a weak, half apology, like someone tossing a scrap over their shoulder." I stared at it for a second. Then I put my phone down and didn't answer. Some endings don't need a big speech. Some people don't need a comeback. You just walk away and let the silence speak for itself. Life's still life, you know? The roof leaks way sooner than the inspector said it would. Evan and I still argue about who's supposed to take the trash out when it's pouring rain. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm tired and my brain's restless, those old doubts Derek planted still echo. But here's the thing I finally understand. Worth isn't something you earn by shrinking yourself for somebody else. It's something you recognize when you're finally standing in front of someone who never made you question it to begin with. Evan never asked me to be anyone other than exactly who I am. And that's the kind of love that sticks.